Hello and welcome to another edition of Link, the Salvation Army's video news magazine. I'm Sarah Miller.
And I'm Trevor Davis.
In this edition we're going to be looking at the Salvation Army's work with the homeless at Rochester Row. We're also going to take a trip back in history and look at Spa Road Hostel in London.
We shall have two visitors, as usual, in the studio. Our own Territorial Commander, Commissioner Alex Hughes, and Lord Hattersley, who is the author of a recently released biography of William and Catherine Booth called Blood and Fire.
In a moment we'll have a Christmas reflection from Captain Charles King, but first this.
Hello, I'm 20.
And I'm 22. I'm 20 as well.
Yes.
Yes, we are 2020.
Yes, and I'm going to tell you about the 2020 vision. Now remember, the 2020 vision is very complicated, and if you think about it too much, you might get a headache. So don't worry about it. Relax and concentrate on your breathing. Breathe in.
Excuse me.
And out.
Excuse me.
Hold on a minute there, everyone. Yes?
You see, there's something wrong.
Yes?
We're supposed to be doing the 2020 vision. Now.
Yes?
Well, this breathing in and out thing, it doesn't seem to be achieving anything.
Ah, yes, I see what you're saying. An easy mistake to make. The key is this. 2020 means the year 2020, and that's a long way off. And if you can't get your breathing right, you're not going to get anywhere. We'll start worrying about the 2020 vision in 2019. Okay?
Oh, all right then.
Well, I'm not quite sure what that was all about, but I won't worry about it. Now our good friend Captain Charles King has been out and about again.
Do something Christmassy for the next Link video, they said. That was back in October. Well, it's now the middle of November, and still I don't feel very Christmassy. But then I don't really want to. I think we dilute Christmas by spreading it too thinly. We should wait until the last minute and then gorge ourselves on it. In some countries, that's what happens. Nothing at all happens until Christmas Eve, and then, wow, everything happens for just 2 days. Fat chance here in the UK, though. These lovely decorations started going up back in October, and the shops have been gearing themselves up ever since. Displays in the windows, shelves of special goods inside. My local Tesco's had Christmas produce on sale back in August. It's a good job Christmas pudding's improved for keeping. And the advertisements in our newspapers and on the telly have been getting more and more jingle belly. The Advent season might not start until the very end of November, but the advert season has been underway for a long time now. Some people, of course, have Christmas all wrapped up by now, literally, that is. They do their shopping for their presents all the year round. Other people enjoy a last-minute rush, dashing to the shops, particularly to Marks and Sparks, to get that frilly something for the loved one, which, of course, gets taken straight back immediately after Christmas and exchanged for something sensible. After all, what are the words most often spoken on Christmas Day? You did keep the receipt, didn't you, dear? Isn't it strange how we measure the distance to Christmas by the number of shopping days that it is? You never hear anyone say it's 7 car washing days to Christmas or 3 fridge defrosting days. It's always shopping days. Perhaps it shows where our preoccupations lie. So what is Christmas all about? What is the reason for the season? Well, for the man and woman in the street, it's a chance for a good time. A few days off work, food, drink, parties, presents. Psychologists say that special occasions like Christmas are also important as a measure of passing time. Scientists, though, say that time doesn't really exist, it's just something we've invented. I think we can see a measure of truth in that. Although we say that a minute consists of 60 identical seconds, I think we all know that a 45-minute sermon is a lot longer than the second half of a match between Arsenal and Spurs. Mankind's existence, say the scientists, is circular, not linear. A simple example: autumn, winter, spring, summer, and then autumn again. We're back where we started. It's like this huge Ferris wheel here, the London Eye they call it. From just a few weeks' time, thousands of people will pay quite a lot of money to be taken high into the sky, just to return 30 minutes later to exactly the spot they left. Is there a parable here about the way many people live their lives? They're born, they live, they die, and then life goes on without them. The ride was fun while it lasted, but when it's over, that's it. But that's not what life is about for the Christian, and the difference is down to Christmas. On that first Christmas, God himself came to earth, and he revealed to us his nature through Jesus, who grew through babyhood to childhood to adulthood, just as we did. But then God interrupted the cycle. Jesus died, as we will all do, but he rose again, and so can we. For the Christian, death does not take us back to where we started, like the millennium will. It transports us to something new, something the wonder of which we can only guess at. And that's the real wonder of Christmas.
Well, thank you, Charles. We do enjoy your words, something to think about, something to identify with, and I can certainly identify with the bit about Marks and Spencer's. Well, now some more of this.
Breathe in and out and in.
Excuse me?
Hold it there, everyone. Yes?
I was just thinking, what is the 2020 vision, actually?
You want to know what the 2020 vision is, actually?
Yes.
Well, it's quite simple, really. The people at the top realise that the army, is in decline. And they thought, oops, better try and do something about it. And so they thought of the 2020 vision. It's a message to sort of try harder. Now, my personal take on it is that we can't do anything until we've sorted out our breathing. Breathe in and out.
Yeah, but it says here in the 2020 vision statement, our vision is that by the year 2020, we shall have a network of healthy, reproducing and mission-orientated core strategically placed within every viable community in the territory. Well, that's all very well, but what does it all mean?
Well, for a start, if there are core in every community, there'll be a lot more core.
You know, I think that's amazing.
I mean, if they pull it off, it will change the face of the territory.
And the world, probably.
Yeah. Still, 2020 is a long way away, and I don't think we need to start getting worried about that just yet.
Breathe in, breathe out.
Well, there you go, Sarah.
Now, many of us watched the Channel 4 series God's Army, but what we didn't see were the hours and hours of footage that weren't actually used in the final cut.
Now, our AV unit have teamed up with the director of the series to produce a feature which you're going to see now. It looks at the work of our outreach centre operating from Rochester Row in London.
What we do need to tell you is what you're about to see contains some strong language, so if you do feel you might be offended, or if you have young children in the room, you may want to fast forward to the next feature.
Because it's usually his begging time at 6:20.
Right, one chicken. Do you want to roll with that?
No, I have two sandwiches.
Thanks, mate. Yeah.
I want to find Peter Henderson and Michael Chloe. Really, to give them both appointments for DCC tomorrow.
Good afternoon. May I speak to the duty officer? It's Fiona from the Salvation Army outreach team. Is the vacancy still available?
He's actually done.
Workers from the Salvation Army Outreach Centre at Rochester Row are on one of their frequent treks around the homeless of central London.
How are you doing?
I'm still on the street.
No, I saw you yesterday.
Yes, we need to get towels and soap. Yeah. Did you get that?
With additional funding from the government's Rough Sleepers initiative, the Salvation Army Outreach Project contacted over 2,000 homeless people last year, managing to move nearly 750 of them off the streets and into short-term accommodation. Rochester Row's high success rate is achieved through the hard work and dedication of 14 volunteers and only 9 full-time outreach workers. Workers like Salvationist Julie Brett.
Just left a contact card saying our name and where we're from.
Get you an emergency bed somewhere maybe?
Don't want to get in anywhere temporary.
The team offers support, advice and encouragement to people living rough in the hope of persuading them to break the cycle of homelessness for good. Their work has a certain degree of urgency, given that a rough sleeper's life expectancy is nearly half the national average, and they are 35 times more likely to kill themselves.
Can you tell Fiona that you've seen you? Yeah. Okay. All right.
It's a difficult, specialised and highly demanding job, requiring a deep understanding of the complex social issues that are at the very root of the homelessness problem on our streets.
How long have you been doing it for? How long have you been on the streets?
3 years.
Right.
Since Mum died.
Oh.
Stayed my arms and never go over it. Started drinking a lot. I looked after her 13 years. It's a long time. I've got another 5 sisters and 3 brothers, but they will care. And if I die, I die. If I die, I die in the streets probably.
Yeah.
But I know that at least if anything happens to me, I've got a place where I'm going to go to be buried on top of my mum.
You're still alive at the moment, though?
Yeah, I know, but sometimes I feel
haven't you?
I'm going to be dead for the next few months or so.
Have you discharged yourself from hospital?
No, they discharged me.
But if I give you a card of where we're from, but the passage will do similar to what we'll do in terms of finding you like a hostel or whatever, but I'll give you a card anyway.
If I don't find something soon, I'm just going to finish it for good.
I think it's often assumed that people are homeless because of their addictions or because of their alcoholism, but in fact it's probably about 50-50. Some are homeless because of their addictions, but others become addicted to alcohol or drugs because they're actually on the street, so there's a balance of both. There's a lot of intelligent people on the street, and sometimes I think people think they're all, people that are drunk or whatever. And it depends how you class homeless people as well, because a lot of homeless people are in hostels or B&Bs or staying with friends that are still officially homeless but aren't actually on the streets. So what we're doing tonight is mainly with street homeless people. Hi, all right.
It's interesting.
Okay, all right.
The outreach street work channels people into the main meeting place at Rochester Row. Frequent drop-ins with hot soup and sandwiches entice newcomers and give the team a chance to catch up with the regulars. There is also plenty of help and guidance on offer, and the team is constantly bashing phones to find people accommodation. In charge of the day-to-day running of the centre is Lieutenant Colonel Stan Reed.
And what's your name, sir?
If you don't know now, you never will.
Everyone has their own specific reasons why.
Everyone's got their own stories to tell.
You've got like mental health, you've got like people come from care, you've got like military, people come straight out of the army or military services, stuff like that.
People come out of jail.
Well,
People come from foreign countries.
Lays. I mean, like when it comes like I did, I came straight out of care. I was on the streets at 14. From there, it's sort of like really gets hard. I mean, people think getting a job is easy. It's not.
You can't get somewhere to live if you haven't got money. And you can't get a job if you haven't got somewhere to live. So basically, you get kicked both ways. You're in a no-win situation. That's the way it goes.
Well, I should be entitled to something, but apparently I'm not. Because I'm single, right? Because I'm single, I'm entitled to nothing. And I've been down to every council, right? And they're going, you've got to be in the borough for so many months.
Many of these people, on the face of it, are unlovely. They're not the sort that you would choose to be friends with.
I wouldn't even do that to a dog.
But we discovered that a lot of these folk have never had a permanent home or permanent kind of life. And many of them are in care as children. At 16, they're just turfed out into society without many people taking too much trouble as to what happens to them.
I'm on income support. I don't have a deposit. I can't.
You hear some horrific stories of what people have gone through, and you just think, well, if I'd have had that experience, would I have done any better?
The only way I'm going to get something permanent.
And what they need is love. Someone to show that they care, because many of them say they've never known love. They can't love themselves because they've never been loved. So that's what we try to do, love them.
John is one of Stan's longest-running clients. He's a recovering alcoholic whose faith was renewed through Bible classes at the centre. John has been off the booze for some time, but has just wandered in drunk.
I was off the booze for nearly 4 years. I think off that long and then got back on the sort of stuff again. Sorry, I don't know.
On the street, Julie has met one of her regulars, Danny. Living rough is taking its toll, and a recent injury is making him depressed.
My ankle's broken, my leg's broken as well, so I'm definitely getting up and down.
Who put this on for you?
A hospital.
Yeah.
Didn't do it myself. Look.
I thought 22 months I've cracked it, you know. I've got obviously a drink problem, alcoholic. And don't ask me why I went back on the booze again. Fuck did I know? I said, Jesus, I've never done it.
Has anything triggered you off feeling so low?
Life, Jodie, life. I should have come with rage and rage.
No, don't talk like that.
Probably me. Probably just myself, I think.
We all have days like that, Danny.
I got divorced and then I said, have the fucking lot. Excuse my friend, you can't, well, the beer is there, wasn't it? I was working in Saudi Arabia, teaching guys how to fly airplanes. And I thought, well, I'll be rich anyway. And I am, as a business. So I bought a house down in Pimlico, not a house, a flat. Curious, sorry. But I got back on the booze again and got drunk again and fucked myself up again, didn't I?
And Edward Alsop Court, have they definitely not got any emergency bed spaces? Right, okay.
He's ill. You know what I mean? It's not a play acting thing, he's ill.
We're not play acting.
No.
We're not.
And I'm on the streets as well. It don't look like it, but I'm on the streets. It's a real thing. Get the grasp of that. It's when you get hold of it, it's a real thing. It's not a play acting fucking thing.
She's one of the workers, don't worry.
What day is it today? Tuesday. Probably
Whenever you're ready. Whenever you're ready. He's talking to me about going into a detox. And can I arrange for him? Because he knows he can't handle it on his own. He needs help. Once you're an alcoholic, you can't touch it again. As I said to him, you're a boxer. You know about boxing. You don't drop the guard, otherwise the other fella's straight in. You've dropped your guard, and that's why you've come back to this state. But he wants to get back to being sober, so we shall certainly work with him as hard as we can to achieve that.
I think just sometimes stopping it and giving them the time of way, just the time of day stops them in their tracks, the feeling that nobody cares and nobody wants to talk to them.
I know, I mean, I could see that even when you were talking to him.
So
he's a lot better now than he was at the beginning.
And sometimes that's more important than getting them in anywhere. It's just kind of giving them a bit of self-value and self-worth. So,
but I mean, you know, he says that his hands aren't bothering him and stuff, but the thing is, it's like a cycle, do you know what I mean? If he got that sorted out, it would help to lift him a bit as well, you know, just feel a bit better.
But from his point of view, he doesn't even want to live,
Yeah.
so
I know,
his
but
hands aren't going to do anything.
the thing is, if he got his hands sorted out,
Right, you're going to have to go, the both of you. Because we're full up and we need to let other people in. No, we're going round one by one, okay? You two have to leave.
You can't sleep when you're on it because you're damn sleep. When you sleep, you're going to die because you're going to spew out and kill yourself. So you're awake all the time because you're drinking water and you're just bringing water up.
A more
You've got a
sober
bucket by
John
your
has
bed
appeared at the drop-in.
to fill the bucket up with water that you're drinking, empty that out, and you've got bottles of water everywhere. And it's oh boy, it's terrible.
Sally, I've got them. There's no trainers. Do you want them? No. Pardon? Right, here's your suit. You know that you're barred from here at the moment, don't you? I know. You know. All right, okay.
You are not from England, you are not from London, you have no housing benefits.
Yeah.
You have
So
no
he
hardware
couldn't help you?
No.
No.
We haven't got anything else. You'll have to get it from the passage. You shouldn't really be getting anything from here at the moment because you're barred.
I'm fucking bad. I'm fucking in there.
She usually hits out of things and turn things over if she can't have what she wants.
I got a fucking black in there.
Okay. And she has hit members of staff before as well. There are a lot of people kind of caught in the trap that she's got an alcohol problem as well as a mental health problem, and that's a huge gap in the system that some places won't accept her because alcohol is her primary need, and other places won't accept her because mental health is her primary need. You know, she's got like a dual diagnosis of what's wrong.
Here you go. Brilliant. Can we put it on top? Yeah. All right, thanks.
There's so many Christ-like beings in this Salvation Army, in this particular Rochester Road, and nobody could possibly ever sort of say in any way what, you know, there is not a lot of love in Rochester Road too. Stanley, you know, he seems to be able to deal with any single situation at all. Seems like an ordinary guy, but there's nothing ordinary about Stanley. He's got an intuitive power that comes from somewhere. Now, where does this intuitive power come from? Everybody helping each other through life in this well, the Word of God is all around us, and the view to see within what Stanley does is just like a Christ-like being, you know.
You can't remember my name? Julie. Judith. Oh, it's good to see you again. So you're definitely going to come in tomorrow morning? Okay, all right, because that's the best time to try and get in somewhere. I think a lot of people have rejected the church, but they haven't rejected God, if that makes sense. You know, they've rejected the hypocrisy of the church, but haven't rejected God. And as we get to know people, we have loads of opportunities to pray for them and share what we believe and see some breakthroughs begin to happen. You know Fiona quite well, don't you? We're from the same place as where she's from.
There's more of a reality sometimes that you see in people on the streets because they're aware of their humanity, they're just aware of their weakness and their vulnerability and how much they need of God.
Nothing's changed in relation to the Christianity part. I still have a look at the book. And even when I was sick, in fact I looked at it more, I think, when I was...
Very often they just need a listening ear.
Maybe he'll do me a favour.
Someone who will sit, not just talk, but listen. And make them feel what they have to say is worthwhile. And so that's what I try to do here, listen to people and make them feel that what they have to say is worthwhile, that they are people of worth, which they are. Everyone has worth. And if I can make a person feel that they are worthy, even though they've sunk to the very lowest level, that they are still worth something, that God loves them. And if God loves them, can I do any less?
That makes for some very powerful viewing, and watching that piece with us here today in the studio is our own Territorial Commander, Commissioner Alex Hughes. Welcome to the programme today.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
It's not often that the ordinary Salvationist gets a chance to see the work of the Salvation Army like that, so firsthand. How valuable do you think it is that people appreciate what really goes on at the coal face, as it were?
Well, I think it would be tremendously valuable if every Salvationist were able to see this. It would be even better if they were actively involved in it, because there's a tremendous realism here, reality that makes its own impact. I mean, when you think that we're talking about real people here, people with needs, people who feel that they don't belong, they've been neglected, life has treated them badly. And the fact that the Salvation Army, through its Salvationists, can reach out, I think it's marvellous, and I just wish that every Salvationist could have that kind of experience.
Now obviously we're taking the work of the Salvation Army with the homeless and the elderly and all those that we work with at Christmas time to another level by including shots from that in a television advert which is going out to promote our Christmas appeal this year. Again, showing real people in real situation. How important do you think it is that we use television and television advertising to promote our work in this way?
Well, I think that using the television to show this kind of reality will reach people, will remind them that they have a responsibility, and that part of that responsibility can be worked out through the Salvation Army. And we just thank God for people who are working out there, and we thank God for those people who are appearing in the advert, because they've all given their permission for these shots to be used. In a sense, they're beginning to feel that they belong. And I would like to think that people who contribute through this advert feel that they're also helping these people to belong again.
Absolutely.
Now, Commissioner, last time we were sitting in this studio, we were welcoming you as our new territorial leader. 5.5 months on, how does it feel? Are we what you expected?
That and more. I mean, at times it feels as if it's been 5.5 years, not because it's been difficult, but because it's been marvellous. So much has happened. I mean, almost immediately after we arrived in the office, we had the Henley Report with so many opportunities to reach out to the media and talk about the Army's ministry and mission, and then meeting officers and councils at Swanwick. Then after that, just visiting Corps, making contact with people at social centres. The general impression that I have is that the Army is in good shape. I'm not naive. There are some places where I just wish that better things were happening. But the general picture is a very positive one, and I'm tremendously excited.
Well, that's encouraging. We'd like to ask you a question in a moment about 2020 vision, but first of all, this.
Breathe in.
I've got it!
And out.
Listen, I've got it! I've got
and
it!
In.
This is it!
Hold it there, everyone. Yes.
Listen, you know you said 2020 is a long way off?
Don't tell me they brought it closer.
Yes! Well, no, well, they've done this.
Now you've got it all mixed up.
Look, it's 2002. They've called it the 2002 Milestone Strategy. It's a kind of marker to make sure we're on track for 2020.
A milestone?
Yeah, it says we will be a spirit-filled, radical, growing movement with a burning desire to lead people into a saving knowledge of Jesus Christ, actively serving the community, fighting for social justice.
A milestone strategy.
Oh, if only we could fully digest this message.
Never mind digesting. What about my breathing? Do you realise that's only 2 years away?
Yep.
Skip the breathing. Let's go straight to the diet. To fully absorb the 2002 Vision Strategy, it's best to use small bites.
You've just eaten the 2002 Milestone Strategy leaflet.
Oh, yeah.
Here, do you want another one? Oh, these are good, aren't they?
Now, Commissioner, that animation brings us nicely forward from the 2020 vision to the 2002 milestone. How are you sort of catching up with that in the territory here? How do you see this?
Well, I think it's good that we're reminded that we need to prepare for 2020. It won't prepare itself. Nothing happens automatically. And the fact that it's been brought nearer to us in the 2002 milestone statement, I think helps us to clarify what we should be doing now. And as I've moved around the territory and had contact with people, with officers, with Salvationists, I've sensed this need to have our army as a spirit-filled, radical, growing movement that moves into the future, very much aware that we need to trust in God. We need to allow Him to move us into areas where we haven't been working before. We need to be just willing for God to do what He wants to do with the Salvation Army in the next few years. And I see it as something that's catching throughout the territory.
We're constantly helped in the Army by occasions for renewal and recommitment. Speaking totally individually as a Corps officer, I'm delighted that the Commitment Sunday has moved from the first Sunday in November to the new year, and especially, of course, at this time. How do you feel about Commitment Sunday 2000?
Well, we're also delighted because we're going to be in Boscombe on Commitment Sunday. And I think it gives us a marvellous opportunity to begin the new millennium, committing ourselves again to God, to the mission which He's given to the Salvation Army. And I certainly hope that Salvationists all throughout the territory on Commitment Sunday will not only renew commitments that they've already made, but ask themselves just how they've done with those commitments.
And that's on the 9th of January.
The 9th of January.
Now, as we're talking about the millennium and looking forward, it's quite a natural time for us also to look back at what we've achieved over the last few years. And now we're going to watch a film about one of our centres, which has just recently celebrated its centenary.
In April 1899, the Salvation Army announced the opening of a new social centre.
Spa Road originally was opened to be a waste paper depot, recycling waste paper. In 1909 or thereabouts, they expanded the work and built an elevator. Now, this isn't something from Messrs. Otis going up and down in a building, but an elevator was William Booth's concept of helping men to come in and really be elevated back into society. And the whole of the work at Spa Road was dedicated to helping men improve themselves and be rehabilitated back into society.
In its early years, Spa Road was home to 600 men who worked and lived at the centre. 100 years later, its mission continues, although the work of the centre has changed radically over the years.
Many of the people who were at the Spa Road Centre were beneficiaries of a programme, and the Army was able to help them. But the changes in national insurance regulations meant that the programmes had to change, and so our work at Spa Road has gradually reduced.
Spa Road is at the moment home for 44 men. Some of them have been residents here for a long time.
Many of the residents in the Spa Road Centre come from other hostels. Some of them are quite elderly, and really Spa Road is a haven for elderly people.
James has lived here since 1942.
A lot of old good people lived here. They're all gone now.
Although the centre has moved with the times, and its outlook has changed since the Victorian years, the spirit of Spa Road and its commitment to improve the lives of its residents remains unchanged.
They will put you up, they will supply you with food, they will do everything they can, nothing is too much bother for them. And they will make sure that you're not on the streets.
During its heyday as a waste paper depot, the centre was recycling 500 tonnes of paper each week. This was pioneering work in its time, as was its philosophy.
William Booth was somebody years before his time. The whole concept of an elevator, the whole aim was rehabilitation. And you'll find that many social work agencies in 1999 are using the same model for their work, and so Spa Road was an innovator, and thousands of other people are doing the same sort of work in 1999.
Many different activities have gone on throughout the life of Spa Road. Today, its warehouse is used as a food storage and distribution centre for goods donated to the Salvation Army. But in the past, it had a range of uses, from being a shelter for refugees to being a tin box factory.
During our celebration weekend, we're grateful to God for the opportunity that the Army has had at the Spa Road Centre to meet the practical needs of men and women over these years. We're much more grateful to God for the opportunity that we've had through the lives of the people who've worked in that centre to show them the Christian gospel and to present Christ in a very positive way. And so we celebrate 100 years of social service, but much more, we celebrate 100 years of salvation service. And just as we cannot know how many people have come through for social service needs, so we can't know how many people have been touched by the gospel, but we believe that it's a significant number of people.
After 100 years, Spa Road continues to serve those who need its support. Its pioneering work and its philosophy have been a model for the development of the social services in Britain. And today, as a century ago, its work continues to have a deep effect on the lives of those it serves.
I don't know what would have happened. I probably would have ended up on the streets in a cardboard box or somewhere like that.
It means home to me. My home.
Well, another piece of Salvation Army history. And somebody who's been delving into that Salvation Army history recently is with us in the studio today. We're delighted to welcome Roy Hattersley. Roy, how significant would you see the establishment of places like Spa Road and other hostels and social service centres in the overall development of social services?
I think the film was absolutely right. The Salvation Army, General Booth and the people around him began a new view of welfare in this country. It began a view which said we help people because they need help. Not moralising about the reasons for them needing help, certainly try to improve them when you've helped them, but not saying this is a bad man so he doesn't really need or doesn't deserve the assistance we can give him. But also that concept, the elevator concept, offering men the opportunity of learning again about work and finding work, well really it's part of the government's programme. Welfare to work is what William Booth invented. Not simply saying, well, we'll give you a handout and you'll struggle along on it, but we'll make you comfortable and teach you how to lead a better life. And I think it was absolutely revolutionary. One of the reasons why I bitterly regret how little credit those early days of the Salvation Army receives for what it did socially, for what it did to change the atmosphere in this country.
You're obviously very passionate about some of the work of the Salvation Army now that you've looked at the history. But when did your interest in the Salvation Army first begin?
Well, I'm afraid it began like almost everybody else's. The Christmas days of my boyhood when the Salvation Army came round and played hymns outside the house, and we waited for it on Christmas morning, mother cooking Christmas lunch, me in the front window knowing the army band was coming round, "O come ye faithful." But I can actually remember a political incident in my youth when I was with a man called George Darling, who was the local member of Parliament, and there was a Salvation Army band actually marching one Saturday afternoon to somewhere, I guess to the Citadel in a place called Philadelphia in Sheffield. And I was a 16 or 17-year-old cynic, and I thought, look at these people in these uniforms, how embarrassing. And I said this to George Darling, and he said he wasn't quite sure how much good the Salvation Army band did to the houses in the street he was marching down, but it was sure it was wonderful for the people in the band because they were publicly bearing witness. They were demonstrating what they believe in. They were expressing their convictions. I guess he was thinking about the party which we were both members and people not expressing their convictions quite so firmly. And he thought, what a wonderful thing for the people to say, here we are, we believe it, watch us. And I feel that very strongly indeed.
So that was the beginning of the interest. Well, lots of people think of us for our music, I know, but also for our social outreach. One of the things that's very significant these days, of course, is soup runs. And reading The Independent, as some of our viewers have, they will know that you recently went on the soup run.
Yes, I don't take any credit for it in a social sense. I went as a working journalist, so I wasn't doing the good work that your volunteers were doing. But the feeling that it was important because of what it did to the volunteers was very strong there. Very clearly, its great importance was what it did to the men in the shop doorways. And I hope the people who know you're out there on the streets of London realise that you're looking after really the people right at the bottom of the heap. I mean, I thought from 33 years' experience as an inner city member of Parliament, I knew about deprivation. But those men in the shop doorways were living in a degree of degradation, not just deprivation, that I hadn't seen before. And it was a very, very impressive thing to take part in.
Good. Now, obviously, your interest has culminated in the writing of your book, Blood and Fire, William and Catherine Booth and their Salvation Army. And I know that you've been busy signing and doing book tours around the country. Would you like to tell us briefly a little bit about the background specifically to actually deciding to write this book?
I thought I'd write a book called William Booth and the Victorian Poor. And I started doing that rather thoroughly, beginning with his life, and therefore going to the British Library and reading the early correspondence between Catherine and William, which the great famous Commissioner Catherine Bramwell Booth deposited there on her death. And as I read the correspondence, I became fascinated by Catherine. And the more I read about Catherine, the more impressed I was by her. And it may be sacrilege in the army, but I began to think that Catherine Booth is probably a rather more impressive figure than William. I mean, he's impressive enough, but Catherine was quite extraordinary for her time and generation. So I said to my publisher I want to do a double biography, Catherine and William Booth. And I'm not having Catherine as full supporting cast. She's co-starring, and that's what happened.
Oh, that's wonderful. Now, obviously, it's a significant book in its own right, but I think it's going to have a special significance for the Salvation Army and possibly for the future of the Salvation Army. And I wonder, Commissioner, how significant do you think it is for the Salvation Army as a movement and for its future?
Roy has made a tremendous contribution to the Salvation Army in this book. I think he captures very much the humanity of William and Catherine Booth, our founders, but at the same time he captures the vision which they had for the army, a vision that came from a very close relationship between God and with people, which means that they were very relevant to their time, and that's a challenge for us today.
Absolutely. Roy, just before we close, perhaps I can ask you, what role do you think the Salvation Army needs to be playing into the next century?
I think it needs to go on doing the things it's done throughout its life, but applying the old principle to new circumstances. It's Catherine Booth's great lecture on adaptation given in Carlisle when she said we can't adapt the Bible. Every word of the Bible is literally true. But we have to adapt our ways of applying those principles to the changing world. And the Salvation Army is doing that. And I don't believe that any agency of government that could do the work the Salvation Army is doing. There has to be a voluntary body doing work with the people who need it most. And the Salvation Army is still doing that splendidly.
Roy, thank you for your interest and your support. And thank you for coming to the studio today. Thank you, Commissioner, for being here. Pleasure. And we shall be signing out.
If you would like to buy a copy of Blood and Fire, it's published by Little Brown at a price of $19.99 in hardback. You can purchase that from SB&S or other bookshops around the country. Also, we've got a Roots update for you. If you haven't booked yet for the Roots convention, which takes place at May Bank Holiday next year, then do get your booking forms in quickly. You may still be in time for a discount.
And now to play us out today, we've got the Christmas Appeal advertisement, which many of you will have seen by the time you receive this edition of Link. For now, it's cheerio from me.
And goodbye from me too.
Today in Britain, thousands of people are going through hell. And wherever they are, the Salvation Army wants to be out there with them. One simple act of kindness can help them back from the cold, hunger, loneliness, despair, and give hope for a brighter future. The Salvation Army believes that actions speak louder than words. But we can only help if you do. A gift of £15 can help us rebuild people's lives. please phone 0800 028 4000 and give to the Salvation Army Christmas appeal now. Your gift of kindness could be all they need. That's 0800 028 4000. Thank you.